everybody. Welcome to another webinar here at Route Consultant. My name is Josh Gregory. I am the Vice President of Education here at Route Consultant. All that means for you is I've been in this industry for a while now and seen a bunch of different facets of it. But these webinars are really a place for us to bring voices and experience from others who are in this industry in particular, who can kind of tell you about what to expect in the day-to-day and the life of as you start this business up and continue to grow it over time. And really, we want these to be a place where you can come, ask questions if you have them, and really take time to sit and think about if this is the right space for you, whether you want to build your own business from the ground up or buy an existing one. Is this the right space for you? And help you really start to think through that decision process. And so if you are here live, like I said, this is something where we will have Q&A at the end. And so at any time, at any point while I'm talking today, if you do have a question, we've got a little Q&A button at the bottom of the window that you can click on, type in your question and send it to us directly, and we'll get to live if you have any of those today while we're talking. If you put it in the chat or if you raise your hand, I might see it, but if you put it in the Q&A, I'll definitely see it. If you're on here, if you aren't here live, you're probably watching this on YouTube, and all of these, both the ones that we're doing today and anything that we've done in the past, are all free on our YouTube page. So you can go back and watch a whole, hours and hours of this content to really dig into this and decide if it's the right fit for you. Now, what we always like to do before we get to those questions, like I said, is we always like to have, some time to focus on some specific content, things that we want to talk about this week. And so in this industry, if you've been watching any of our previous ones, we've talked about how important it is to have things like a company culture and a good brand around it, but that can't just be an internal strategy. You also have to work to focus that externally and start to market your company in this industry in a lot of different ways. And many of you may not have handled the whole side of marketing before, especially if you're coming from something like FedEx or Amazon, where those companies did it all for you. So what we wanted to do today is really talk through some important things to be aware of and to start to structure as you're planning a marketing strategy, and maybe a marketing strategy for the first time. So Hans Fakir and I will be on to talk through it all again today. And if you haven't been on one of these, if you haven't met Hans yet, he has years, decades in this industry, both operating the businesses, owning them, and helping others really figure out if this is the right space for them and taking those correct first steps to build things like a marketing strategy. So Hans, if you want to go ahead and come on and say hello, and then we'll get started.
Hey, good afternoon, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day. It was raining all day yesterday, so happy to see the sun today.
I know that's right, man. Definitely. I
Yeah,
love it. Thank you for inviting me again. Hopefully I
perfect.
can be of service to someone.
You always are. Yeah. So we're going to start, I kind of gave the background. Let's start simple though. If people are thinking about building this for the first time, where do you advise people to really spend time from the beginning as they're starting to build their company brand out and their strategy there?
One of the things that I've learned through my tenure doing this is just learning the rules and regs for each state, right? Knowing that inside and out. You have to understand that every state is different. They operate on, different functions or different guidelines. I'll give you a prime example. I was speaking to one of our mentees in New Jersey, and in New Jersey, and this goes with marketing, the word ambulance has to be backwards. So it
Uh,
doesn't go from the passenger side to the driver's side. It has to start from the driver's side to the passenger side. Again, that's in the rules and regs. And also in the state of New Jersey, the Star of Life has to be, I think, more than 6 inches. So he has to redo those things, which can help you with marketing. But again, if you don't know what your state's requiring, you're already behind the eight ball. So the one thing when it even comes to marketing is know the rules and regs in your state. That's what I tell all my mentees. It should be your secondary Bible outside of your SOPs and your handbook. But this is something that's going to help you get licensed. And if you don't know your rules and regs, even when it comes to displaying marketing things on your ambulance, it could delay the licensing process.
Or you could waste money. I mean, that example, if he had built out, if he'd already gotten those logos and decals on his vehicles and then found out that, it's not correct, he's wasted the money and the time. So it's not just let's build the strategy, right? It's like, let's save you some money too. Like, just make sure
Yes.
you know what you're allowed to do before you ever get started.
And that's what he did. He has to
Yeah.
go back and get the trucks rewrapped.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. He spent money and now he has to go spend more money. And if, learning the rules and regs, he probably would have caught that
Yeah.
in advance.
Yeah.
So
So beyond rules and regs, which we should, you're right to start there. That is just like you said,
mhm.
your secondary Bible that should dictate where you go from here. What are the types of things that you recommend people when they're kind of starting to begin to craft their brand before they start marketing? Where do you tell them to start?
Before you start marketing, I think you want to focus on what is your company's why, right? And hopefully that why is somewhere embedded in your mission statement, and your mission statement is, it's on your ambulance. I gave you an example. I think a couple months ago, my first ambulance company was called First Responders, and the slogan or the mission, it was right there, where the company comes first. I mean, where the customer comes first, not the company. But and a lot of employees gravitated to that, but that was something that I recited in every meeting with my employees. So making sure that your mission statement is broad, your company slogan, it's on your marketing material. When you're marketing, people will see. Now, we always got to keep in mind that we're marketing to someone that if they've been in that position for quite some time, you're not going to be the first ambulance company or the last. So you want to make sure that the key things, really your logo, but the slogan is going to stand out, right? They want to know what's going to differentiate you from everyone else. And a lot of times, it's just me speaking to social workers, it's your belief, it's your why, it's your slogan, it's your mission statement.
Mhm.
So, whatever you want to put, if it's your mission statement or your slogan on your marketing materials, I would highly, highly recommend that.
And putting it on your vehicles too is what you're saying?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Even little
Important.
things like how truck drivers will, they'll have how's my driving,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can put that on ambulances as well. How's my driving? Call this number. And anything to make people see that you really do care.
Yeah.
And you're gonna go a little bit you're gonna go a little bit above and beyond to give that little extra to show people that you're in it for the right reasons.
Yeah. And, we'll talk about logos in a second, but these are billboards. There's a lot that you
Yes.
can't put on there. You can't just, advertise a random company and still be an ambulance, but you can have your mission statement there. And that can be a way to just continually have your message broadcasted wherever you drive.
And Josh, that's like the that's hitting it right on the head. You are driving a billboard,
Mm.
right? And your company name and what you stand by should be clear as day on that billboard. Because in my past, uh, I've had employees love my ambulances and say, I saw your ambulances, they look so nice. The design, the wrap is amazing. Are you guys hiring? And I've had customers say, your company ambulances, they look so professional. I love the mission statement. Uh, can you transport this person and that person? So yes, that is, I mean, when you talk about marketing, that those ambulances are marketing for you almost 24/7, 7 days a week. Why not take the time and make sure that you're not just putting Josh's EMS, but
Yeah.
what does Josh stand for? This is what we're doing, this is our mission statement, this is our slogan, this is our number. How's my driving? Anything to show people, like, listen, this is, we eat, breathe, and sleep this thing,
Yeah.
and we're going to display it right there.
Well, and those are the best too, because like you said, it's happening all the time. So as long as you just invest the time on the front end, you don't have to do anything else ever again. Like you've got the logos on the side of the truck, so you've got that marketing working for you as long as the truck's still functioning.
Yeah, definitely. And you will not believe how many employees you can recruit by having a nice truck that's wrapped nice and professional.
Yeah.
So it's not only marketing, it's a recruiting tool.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
oftentimes that organic recruiting is the cheapest. I mean, it is always the cheapest.
yes,
Uh,
definitely.
So when people are thinking about a logo, I know, I've never had to go and make my own logo. So what do you tell people to think about? Like, what are the kind of quick tips without going too far into it?
Yeah, one of the simple things I tell my mentees or anyone that's interested, and they're at that stage where they've come up with the name, I would tell them to Google EMS logo examples,
Mhm.
and you will see a plethora of examples, right? And they'll have the Star of Life, they'll have different, maybe fire symbols, EMS symbols, but you want to make sure that you stay somewhere in that realm, right? You want to be relatable to the social workers and the nurses, and you want to show people that you understand the healthcare industry. I also tell them to stay away from dark colors.
Yeah.
If you ever work in a hospital setting, if it's a code black, it's something bad. So you
Yeah.
want to stay away from certain things like that. So when it comes to logos, I tell them to make sure that you can tie in a personal feel to it, but you want to make sure it has a corporate look,
Mm.
right? Don't do too much where it's going to take that person a lot of time to understand what you're putting. Because again, on that billboard that you talked about, that billboard's going down the road. You want people to be able to catch what the message you're sending without having to follow you through traffic so they can
Yeah.
understand your logo and your company name. So I tell people use that keep it simple, stupid,
Yep.
you know, keep it simple and make sure that you stay away from dark colors for the most part. But there's a lot of examples on Google, and you can take a little from here, take a little from there, and hopefully you can tie in something of your own, right? I have a company mentee, his company, he has 7 kids, right?
Wow.
But seven, the word complete, seven goes. So we took the seven and we made it into the star
Uh-huh.
of the EMS star.
Got
And
it.
we incorporated the seven in there. So it's a really pretty cool logo. And I think I have it if you want me to show it to you.
Yeah, you can show it.
Oh yeah, yeah, this is awesome. I will show it to you right now. Just tell me if it comes through. And this is how we had to work it. I'll give you two examples. Let me know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can.
You can see it?
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. Yeah, double check that. That
Yeah.
was that.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
this
yeah.
and this is the finished product, but not with the black background.
Yeah. Everything but the black. Yeah, that looks
Yeah.
great.
So he took the personal, 7 kids, the number seven, which means complete. So we call it complete EMS, tied the seven in there with the wings, that you see from a lot of companies. We
Yeah.
had that at the fire department, and then he had the snake and everything. So he incorporated something personal with the healthcare. That's a great example of, an EMS logo, and that person has no EMS background at all.
Yep. All they did was they kind of followed your advice to put in the right things to be you want it to be relatable enough where it's not alienating, but it's really cool, really neat when you can tie in a story, something distinctive. That seven is something people will remember. So yeah, it's like you said, it doesn't have to be crazy, but if you can find the right little levers to pull to have that logo that's distinctive, it goes a long ways.
Yeah, and I've seen some really bad ones. I've
Yeah.
seen a company, they were not my mentees.
Uh-huh.
The
Yeah.
company was called X Factor. I don't even think they're in business anymore. And the logo was black and white and the ambulance was black. I was like, oh
Uh,
my God, like I'm not gonna feel so I think you not gonna feel comfortable putting my parent in that ambulance. So keep that in mind. Like when you think about your logo, you think about even the colors of your walking, moving billboard, your ambulance. What do you want, and what would you feel comfortable putting a family member or yourself in that?
yeah.
And that should probably help you a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. You're always got to be thinking about what am I communicating with this logo? Um,
Definitely.
Now, do you also recommend that people create and put together a website?
Yeah. And I could tell you just from my personal experience, I know some people that do not use websites. They really focus on the dialysis. But throughout my 10 years of doing this or for however long, websites are like the icing on the cake, right? You have your consistent social workers, you build those relationships with the social workers, facility administrators, and doctors. But your website, it's gonna get the customers that aren't going through a social worker that are looking at your reviews,
Mm.
right? So I make sure that the most important thing, again, your website should be consistent with your logo. It should be probably the color scheme should be consistent with your vehicles, but also you have to make sure, imperative that you make sure you list all your services. I have lost a lot of money not listing, thinking not listing all my services and putting it in plain English rather than putting non-ambulatory and ambulatory. And the average person's like, ambulatory? What is he?
Yeah.
So, sir, do you do wheelchair? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to list, and I tell all my mentees, non-ambulatory, put in parentheses, put wheelchair, put sporting events, put, funerals, list every service, leave no stone unturned, dumb it down as much as you can for those that are just not familiar with, healthcare terms.
Yeah.
And, and once I did that, I seen a ramp up in my business through just people I always ask, how did you find me? I saw you on Google. It led me to your website. So your SEOs are very important as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know for me, whenever I'm thinking about any kind of service, I think about people I've seen either on commercials or if I've seen the truck or seen the vehicle out, but I'm still always going to also Google it. And so
Yeah,
anything you can do to just make sure that you have some kind of presence. Because for me, I know for sure if I Google something and find nothing about it, I'm very unlikely to believe that it's real or trustworthy, even if all you have is just this one landing page that just kind of lists your services. Like you said, it's related to your logo, so they know it's real and has a number they can call. All of those
yeah.
things that alone gets you a lot of sales.
Definitely. And if you have an opportunity or if you have the right person creating your website, make sure that they can link your reviews on your website. Now, anyone will look, we're a big review, at least I'm big on reviews when it comes to hotels, foods. So can you imagine when it comes to transporting someone I care about?
Oh yeah.
They look at your reviews like all day, every day. And so I post all my reviews and not just from your customers, your social workers can leave reviews, facility administrators, anybody that you're in contact with that have benefited from your service, ask them to leave a review. And that will help so much. You can even land contracts. And I've gotten contracts from people that saw my reviews and said, you're the company we want to deal with.
Yeah.
So make sure when you do that website that it can attach to your Google reviews or some way that person can put your reviews on your website and even testimonials from customers, maybe not your recurring customers because of HIPAA, but for the most part,
Right.
one-time customers that say, hey, I love your service, how you treated my mom or whatever. So those things will take you very far.
Yeah. Well, because we always talk about how important word of mouth is, and it's just a way to digitize and capture some of that word of mouth in a way where people can actually see it more often.
And Josh, to be honest with you, I've gone into lunch and learns or marketing, and they'll say, "Well, how good are you? Check my reviews."
Yeah.
That's it. And
Don't,
and when they
don't
say,
listen to me. I can tell you all day, but go see what other people say. Yeah.
and what goes a long way is when you're speaking to a social worker and the review that she's reading was left by another social worker.
Yeah.
So again, do not stray away from just social workers giving you reviews. Anyone you come in contact with, if they love your service, ask them to speak about it. It will really help. It'll be so beneficial.
Okay, so let's kind of talk about that side of the equation now. So a lot of this comes down to the relationships that you build with hospitals, social workers. So reviews, that's a great tip. But typically when you're thinking about how do I market and target these social workers, what's the best way to start if you're first coming into this?
The best way to start to me is always lunch and learns, right? Because again, you're not the first one or the last one that's going to give them this spiel,
Yeah.
right? So you want to set up a lunch and learn, and that's where you're face to face. That's where you're providing lunch. You always want to make sure that you're not just providing lunch for that one social worker, right? Every time I go into a facility, I ask them, who are the three people in charge of transportation?
Yeah.
Or who are the people in charge of transportation? And sometimes it's the social worker. If she's not there, it's going to be the facility administrator, or it might be just the front desk admin. Okay, I want to do a lunch and learn for those three people, right? And again, I'm leaving no stone unturned, and that's where I'm coming with my marketing material. I'm buying lunch for the staff, and I'm telling them more about myself. So lunch and learns, I would tell people it's a great way to start. It's helped me with my ambulance company and my home health.
Do they typically say yes, or how hard is it to actually get those?
Everybody wants free food, so they'll always, I've never had someone say no,
Okay, yeah,
right?
so
And
that's the
so,
worst
yeah,
part. Yeah, it's like I don't want to listen to your sales pitch, but free lunch. Okay, I'll be there.
so
Yeah,
for,
yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. So you never go anywhere with your hands empty, right? You want to make sure
yeah.
you're giving them something. So,
Okay.
and it just seems like you're interested. And the one thing I would advise uh, also is when you do have that opportunity to do a lunch and learn, don't just start spilling, hey, this is what we do. Again, they've heard it before.
Yeah.
Josh, thank you for allowing us to have this lunch and learn. What are your primary things that you would change with transportation? Now I'm giving you an opportunity to discuss with me your problems, and I can say, look, I can do this by this. I will make sure that we communicate. I will make sure that we do this. I have to find out what the problem is before I just start giving my spiel, right? And so I would advise anyone to just ask first, are you having problems with transportation? What do you think we can improve with in the transportation community? And then go from there.
Are they typically like 30 minutes, an hour? How long do they normally last?
30 minutes, because usually, and if you know they have things to do, they're probably taking care of patients. Sometimes you will be fortunate enough to have the doctor sit in. So you want to do 30 minutes because if you can't say anything within those 30 minutes, you're really wasting time.
Yeah.
Everything should be done in 15 minutes.
Okay. And it's mainly just talking after that.
Yeah.
Is think back to maybe the first lunch and learn you did. Did it go well? Was it hard? Was it nerve-wracking? What was the first one like for people who are trying to envision doing this for the first time?
The first one, that's kind of I've been in marketing for so long.
Yeah.
So was it I love that stuff. But what I do tell people my mentees, look for that person that has, if you're creating a marketing team and you're not doing it yourself, I would always say go with someone else. Don't ever go by yourself. Because, prime example, Josh, you and I will go market in Nashville.
Yeah.
But you might say something and that might spark a rapport with you and the social worker. Well, if that happens, I'm going to go wait in the car, right? Because I'm gonna let you do your thing. And I always tell people you have more chances if you go with another person or a third person, and everyone knows their roles, they know when to fall back, or they know when that rapport is being built, and you're gonna fall, you're gonna allow that person to speak more because they've built a great relationship. So if you were in the military and the social worker is ex-military, I'm gonna make sure you do all the talking. Because right there, now you have a common bond with this person. So that is one thing I always advise. My first time was pretty easy because I have that relatable background with my parents.
Yeah.
So understanding and seeing my father wait for over an hour, that was the first thing I said. I know what it feels like to know someone who had to wait. So you're not giving business to someone who doesn't understand healthcare. The truth of the matter is, Josh, that everyone, no matter if you've been in this industry or not, has a relatable story. We all know someone that's been to the hospital. We all know someone that's been sick. We've all had to care for someone, or we've heard about someone who had. We all know, and if we really think about it, we can all come up with a story that will that will make us relatable to that social worker.
Yeah.
And that will go a long way with making that social worker trust you. When you can find that relatable story and bring that to your marketing and find a way to make them understand that you're not just doing this for the money. You understand the severity, you understand the importance of transporting someone, you understand the importance of taking care of someone who's ill. They will be more compelled to deal with you than someone that's saying, look, I have 5 ambulances, I do this, I do that. Okay, we get that. We've heard that before. But what is going to make Josh different from Hans? Well, I was born and raised in Nashville. I know this area inside and out. Like whatever you can use as your advantage to separate yourself, right? My parents are 60. I still have to call them and check on my dad. And, I'm just saying this as an example. But I understand what it means to make sure my dad does not miss a doctor's appointment. If you can find that relatable, subject, then you're golden.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's just a good thing for anyone who's thinking about, this space and entrepreneurship in general. The more you can kind of think through your story and how to tell it, that's, as the owner of a cell phone business, one of your most important tasks is to be the evangelist for your own business. So that is a good exercise no matter what industry you enter in, and definitely in this one.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
is there anything that's you should that you kind of give as a big, like, definitely don't say this when you're talking to social workers, or any kind of red flags you can say when you go in there?
Yeah, don't offer them anything.
Mm,
That is a huge red flag. That is a Medicare, Medicaid violation. You don't want to, what's the term, pay to play.
yeah,
That can get you barred from some social dialysis centers. So you never want to offer any financial compensation. You know, I will buy my social workers lunch. I'll buy them coffee mugs that have my slogan on it, my logo. I will buy them things like that. But anything outside of that, no. You want to make sure you come off as professional as possible, and that's definitely a red flag.
yeah, yeah. And it's when we're talking lunch and learns, you're not bringing in steak and lobster for these lunch and learns.
I
You want
know,
to stay within compliance there, and that it's never seen as a bribe or anything like that.
definitely. And you're only doing it for three people, so you can spend a little without being too obvious. And I will ask Josh, hey, I appreciate you letting me do this lunch and learn next Thursday. What do you think you and your staff will like? And I'm involving you again. I'm still trying to build that rapport. Sometimes people come in with Jimmy John and donuts, and they're probably, they've had it up to here with Jimmy John. So you want to at least get some input from them. And then you start developing this friendship, right? I think one of the things that social workers will look at is this going to be a transactional thing, or can I really just call Josh?
Yeah.
And I try to stray away from making it a transactional relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's the right way, especially like, what we've talked about so many times, the packages in this industry are people. And so the closer you are to transactional, the less trust and that they're going to feel in putting people and patients in, real medical conditions in your hands and
Yeah.
expecting you to kind of follow through on what you promise.
Yeah, and it's simple things, Josh, like getting your social worker a $5 Starbucks card for Christmas. Like, it's not about just calling them when your patient count is low. It's like, hey, Josh, I'm just calling to see how you're doing, how's service going. And I build personal relationships with my social workers. They all have my personal number.
Yeah.
And I want them to understand that they can call me when it comes to to the patients or our customers, like we like to call them. They can call me at any time.
Yeah.
And so you're closing the gap. You're not seeming so distant. And when they know that they can do that, again, you're just building on top of the trust that hopefully you've already built.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess it's kind of a last question here for you. As a whole, how much time and money do you kind of think about investing into marketing for a business?
My first year, I think I spent 5,000 or less. You're just trying to get your name out there, right? But I'm talking about fuel, employees, I'm very strategic. So like if I started an ambulance company to just completely honest, you're going marketing with me, right? Right? Because one thing and I'm gonna pay for you to do it because diversity helps,
Yep.
right? Just you might see someone that looks like you talk and they just it's a comfort level.
Yep.
So I'm going to make sure I use all of that to my advantage. And whichever way I can create a personal relationship, whether it's through me or through you, and you work for my company, then that's what I'm going to do. So the first year, there was a lot of that, like trial and error. Let me figure this thing out. And in the middle of that first year, I hired some of my staff that, whether they were white or Asian or whatever, hey, you're coming with me.
Yeah.
We're going to tackle this thing and I'm going to teach you how to market. And that's what I did. So after the first year, your marketing is really word of mouth. Your marketing is how clean you keep your trucks. Your marketing is how professional your employees look. If their shirts are tucked in, do they have headphones while they're walking through the facility? All those things were a no-no. Are they wearing their favorite sport team's hat instead of your company's hat? Like just paying attention to the details it becomes your marketing,
Yeah,
right? And then how you treat the customers, you have to understand that your customer is always going to a facility where there are other customers there and
that's
they talk, right? Whether they're in the waiting room and they're paying attention to how you pick up the patient, take care of the patient. Everybody's paying attention to you. So your trucks and your employees should be the only marketing you need after the first year. And then of course, I do follow-ups with my patients and my customers once a month. So once a month, but that doesn't cost me anything but a few minutes out of my day. Hey Josh, how's everything going with our service? Oh, we love it. Last week one of your guys came 10 minutes late, but it was no big deal. But you're still keeping that conversation going and you're letting them know that you're involved and you're not just involved when 3 or 4 patients died. And now I'm calling Josh like, hey, do you have any patients? I'm calling you monthly just to see how you're doing.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And you say it like it's not a big thing of those little follow-ups, but that is huge and most people don't do it. And
No.
so even though it's not a huge time commitment, that is the thing that'll save you the most money when you're thinking about marketing. If you may have to spend a little bit in the front end to really build your base, build your brand and cement those relationships. But after that, your goal is to retain and your goal is to keep whatever stellar image and brand you've created as pristine as you can, and that comes from the way you recruit, the way you train, and the way that you continue to talk and speak with customers every day, every month from now for forever. But the good thing is like nailing marketing it's why we talk about having a strategy, because if you get your strategy right, you build the building blocks correctly, then a lot of it will handle itself after a certain amount of time, as long as you've kind of thought it through and you're doing it right from the beginning. And it's why we always talk about, if you have questions on how to build it and how to build it for your state, Hans can help you. Hans has done it for tons of people across the country.
And I was just telling a mentee of mine that the embarrassing thing is some of my mentees are doing better than me now, right? So it's crazy because gentleman named well, he has a company called Personal Care. He's at 12 patients. No, he's at 6. He just started last month. Uh, Mutual Care, they're at 12. They've only been in the business for 6 months. So these guys are averaging, in 6 months, 40 to 70,000 a month. Because what happens is once you do what you're supposed to do, the floodgates open. And when you take care of one patient, that social worker knows that they can rely on you. Now they're moving patients from companies that they're not happy with, and they're giving you the new patients. And so what I've seen in my own business and people that I've helped, and I tell them the one thing that I always tell everyone, if you do what's right and not worry about the money will come. That's the rule in this business. Anyone will tell you, my friend who has 34 ambulances in Philadelphia and he's averaging $1 million a month. His employees know. I mean, they all mimicked it. We just take care of the patients. Our boss will take care of us.
Yep.
If you can get a company to run that way, you're gonna be hugely successful,
Yeah.
right? And every social worker will tell you, we just need you to be dependable
Yep.
and communicate. And once you do those things, you'll make more money than you'll ever imagine.
Yeah.
And I've seen it.
Yeah, and it's the dependability. It comes back. You build a brand, and then you want to make sure that the brand continues to mean what you said it meant at the beginning. And if you can continue
Yes.
to do that over time, you'll build the trust, you'll build the business, and it'll stay.
Yes. It's been proven over and over and over again.
Yeah,
So,
perfect.
and I've seen companies that they they grew so fast because they were just worried about that one aspect, which is the financial, that they burnt out. Because your employees see it, and everybody can see your mission. Everybody can see your why. Even when you don't think they can see right through why you're doing
Yeah,
it. And so you don't want that.
yeah, perfect. Well, Hans, I think that's what we wanted to cover today from a marketing perspective. It was really helpful, And for everybody listening, that's the high level. Obviously, at the end of the day, when you're actually in the weeds in your particular state, talking through what your particular why is and the thing that you're trying to communicate, there's a lot of nuance and intricacy that comes through that. You kind of have to talk through and build and work through together. And we're always happy to do that if you reach out to our team. You can go to the Route Consultant website or the info@routeconsultant.com email. Plenty of ways to get a hold of us.
Yeah.
Now, I did see a question that came through, basically just how profitable can these businesses be? So I think an important thing to think through is first, like we've been talking about, the front end can have some additional costs, some startup and acquisition costs. And as you build your business, as you scale it, some of those expenses can fall away. So kind of average ranges we see are between 7 and 20% profit margins, but they can be higher. Some of these larger companies that have really started to scale and have a solid infrastructure built up can start to see, higher profitability there too. But even then, those are, if you're up in the 20% range, you're doing really well on a consistent basis with one of these businesses.
Now I'm going to post something just for you, Josh,
Yeah,
and the gentleman or the young lady who's asking the question. This was my first year's tax return. I think I showed it to you, Josh, didn't
you might have. Yeah,
I? Okay, so my CPA put it on a little sticky notepad on my paperwork. And the funny thing is, this goes along, and this actually has some relevance to what we're talking about. I didn't even know I made this much because I was so focused on
yeah,
just trying to be the best company out here. So I'll show you this.
yeah,
And that was in, I kind of hid all the other because she put it on my actual
yeah. You don't want
paperwork
to
that
show
we
your
got from
social
the state.
security number on here.
Yeah. And so, but that I hold on to that because that was just inspiring. I told people you always think you can make a million, but when you actually do it, you're like, wow, what else can I do? And so for the person that asked that question, it really just, it can be profitable. Again, it just depends on how you run your business, how
Yep.
you run your expenses, constantly looking at your P&Ls, seeing what you can cut without taking it away from your employees. And do not get greedy. Invest all your money back into your employees, right? Because they know, they know the numbers, they know how this thing works. So my employees I always take care of them and they'll take care of you. And so, it could be as profitable as you want it to be. But I think um, investing back into your company, making sure your trucks are always ready to go, clean, making sure your employees are ready, making sure that they have, the benefits that they need, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah. And I'll say too, this is one of those things, just like a lot of these businesses are, where there is a wide margin between the people who are doing it well and who are not. And there's not like this one place that trains you exactly for how to be perfect, and all ambulance contractors are all following the exact same model. So there are ones that have gotten into this that didn't come in with a plan or a strategy, don't really know what they're doing, and aren't doing nearly as well as they should be. And then there are ones, we've talked about it a couple of times. There are multi-million, billion-dollar level companies in this space who, started and grew and are, major players in the medical industry. So this is a space where we can talk about profit margins, but every state's different. Every one of us is different with our goals and what our path will be, but do not be fooled to think that there's not potential here. Hans showed you what 1 year can look like, and we've seen very large scale contractors and opportunities in this space.
And that was my first year,
Yeah.
and I didn't know what I was doing. I was learning it, and I go like,
Yeah.
I don't know if people understand, like just with route consultants and myself, like we're gonna take the guessing out of it. And so you don't have to worry about learning and I know marketing is not for everyone, but like you said earlier, anyone has any questions, we'll help you. Like that's what we're here for, right? So we're gonna make this a lot easier for you and just take the guessing out of it and tell you what has worked
Yeah.
and what hasn't.
Yeah, and there was a question about specific states. We can help whatever state you're in. You can either, we can connect you with what we've learned from those states or connect you with others in those states. So wherever you are, whatever state it is, we'll be able to help and help you through the process, help you understand the regulations, and make sure that You're not going in blind, and we're arming you with as many resources as we can as you're taking those first steps.
Definitely.
Perfect. Just as a general reminder for everybody beyond what we've already talked about, we have free one-on-ones. You can go watch some more additional videos, and all of our old webinars are all on our website. We also have, if you're ready for kind of the next step of deciding if this is the right space for you, we have something called our New Investor Summit. It's a combination of both a digital course that you can take to really help you solidify this is the right space for you, and an in-person workshop. And so those are designed as, let's get you to our office in Nashville. Let's continue to invest in you, make sure that you're connecting with the team, with vendors, with Hans, and really getting your last questions, any of those last remaining questions answered, so that you can know this is the right space for me. I'm diving in, whether I'm building or buying, or it's not. And if you find out after coming in for a day and you spend a couple $100 to find out that it wasn't worth spending the next 3 years of your life on, we still call that a win. We've still saved you time and money on that day. So that is really where I would encourage you to go if you're still kind of at the decision point, the inflect point there. If you are already building, or you found one you're buying and you're trying to find the right way to work with us, we can help both in an evaluation of current opportunities, or as you're building, working with Hans on a weekly basis, on a mentorship basis. So like I said before, you can go to our website or just reach out to us at info@routeconsultant.com. We'll make sure to connect you with whatever point you are in the journey. Other than that, Hans, thank you so much for being here, answering questions, providing your experience.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for having me, and let me know whenever you need me. I'm here.
Perfect. And for everybody who's still on, we will see you all next week. Thanks.